welcome to another episode of PixlFeed Radio. I'm here with my friend Yaro Starak. Yaro, how you doing today, man?
I'm good, Christian. Happy to be here.
Absolutely, man. I'm super excited to have you here. For those of you that don't know, Yaro is the co-founder of inboxdone.com, which is an email management company with a team of 25 plus, so it's not a small company. And then he's made multiple angel investments in tech startups, including Steezy, LeadIQ, and Fluent Forever. So, I'm super excited to have you here. So before we get into inboxdone.com and what is it that it does and the technology behind it, let's go back to where it all started, because you have quite the resume, I should say. So I always ask this question at the beginning, like when you were a kid, were you always like trying to come up with an idea for a business or doing something on the side? How did it all start?
Yeah, not as a kid. I love this question too. I often ask it on my podcast.
Yeah.
And yeah, we didn't have lemonade stands as far as I remember in Australia, actually, where I grew up, or anything like that. It definitely was into baseball cards when they hit Australia. There was a brief sort of basketball card, baseball card run, and there'd be like flea markets. I don't know if you have flea markets in the States, actually, but yeah,
No, we do. We do. Yeah.
Okay. And you'd sell them there and buy them there. And, I was into that and trading them a little bit. But honestly, it wasn't until probably 18, 19 when I was like, okay, I'm an adult, got to figure out some kind of way to make an income. That business became clearly the best choice. Before that, I wanted money, don't get me wrong, but there wasn't any kind of obvious entrepreneurial streak, especially because there weren't any role models in my family for it either. I didn't see it as a path. My dad was an academic. My mom was quite academic as well and had sort of odd jobs here and there. But no one had really built something that they'd call even like, a local mom and pop store kind of situation. So they didn't have those examples.
Really, that's interesting. Like, I grew up in a family entrepreneur. So for somebody to take that path after not having that, I just, like, growing up, I didn't know any different, if that makes sense. And then for somebody to come from a completely different background and still go forward, that takes a lot of guts and a lot of, because it's not an easy path, right? It never is. So what was the moment that you decided, hey, you know what? I don't want to work for somebody else. Like, I just want to do my own thing. Like, what was it that that set off that idea in your head? Like, were you, I don't know, at school or working at a job and you're like, this is not for me. Like, I want to do my own thing. How did that happen?
I think it's totally because of school, honestly. Like, the fact that I had to get up 6 a.m., 6:30 alarm clock to catch 2 buses and a train to get to school, to study stuff that I didn't choose to study, to spend my life basically, 5 days a week there without the choice. I know ultimately I could have quit, but it just, I didn't know where to go afterwards. So my orientation around life was, let's never do that again. Therefore, let's never get a job. Let's never have a boss. Plus, there's also that I understand to make money. Like, I did at least pay attention to who was wealthy. My dad talked about other wealthy people a lot, often like, this person won the lotto, or this, like you would hear now, someone who doesn't understand business talks about Bill Gates or, the whatever, Jeff Bezos today. They just kind of mention them like these rich people, but don't really understand what they did to get there. So, but I was interested in it. So I read a book by Richard Branson. It's a lot of people's intro to that kind of entrepreneurial spirit, with Losing My Virginity, I think was his first book. And there's a sequel more recently. And then a few other kind of specific money books, like The Richest Man in Babylon, The 1 Minute Millionaire, kind of traditional wealth creation mindset. Obviously, what is it? The most famous one, Think and Grow Rich. All those, they had an influence on me. And then really, though, the practical influence, like, those are more money mindset. Let's focus on controlling my income and building assets. So I was starting to read that, 18, 19, 20, 21, not sure what to do. There was a case of just good luck, because I entered university when I was 18 in 1998. And if people know their internet history, there was something going on in the late 90s with the internet. It was like the internet was having its becoming an adult for business.com bubble period. So I was totally exposed to the idea of
how old were you
business.
then?
I was 18. So 18 in 1998. So it was perfect timing. I mean, I was getting to see the dawn of a new form of electronic commerce while I was trying to figure out what kind of business I might one day start. So automatically I gravitated towards the internet, because of that. Plus, let's keep it simple. My first internet account that was like on broadband came from being enrolled in university. You got a free, first it was dial up and then you got a faster account. So, I wouldn't have necessarily played with the internet as much if it wasn't for being at university, which is the only thing I'm really grateful for university, not my studies. It's the access to the internet that it gave me.
98 was my last year of high school. So like I was, we're in the same, well, pretty much the same age, I guess. So
yeah,
I remember that like it was yesterday. I remember, how I was becoming popular, and I remember saying like, I got to do something with this. I have to do something with this. And then I went away to school, started partying, and Napster came along. So that's what I did. I downloaded a bunch of music. But I always wanted to start a website. I just didn't at the time because, again, I was too distracted with everything else. But you did it right. I mean, back then it was super complicated and expensive too. So what was the first website?
So I got my start in a card game. I played a game called Magic the Gathering, which, because we're the same age, you probably know. Yeah. So it was, going through its first renaissance around then. It was professional tournaments were being played. I got into it at 16 years old when a buddy brought it to high school. Hit my wheelhouse. I love competition and I love fantasy. So dragons, elves, but you can also win like poker. Perfect. Got into it, and then the internet became sort of
My friend tried to teach me how to play Magic, and I was just like, I don't get it. I don't get it. But I mean, people loved it. I mean, people were obsessed with it.
It still is huge.
Yeah, it's still
like
huge, right?
Now it's online, and there's like a professional tournament series that's way bigger than when I played. So, but I did get interested. In fact, I was the first person in my friendship circle that decided to go to a tournament and play competitively.
That's so cool.
Because of that, it's funny, I actually came third in the amateur division in that tournament. So, obviously it's like lit a fire on me competitively. There was a huge scene and this will date this conversation, in news groups. So, kind of like bulletin boards. Yeah. So a lot of the card talk, so the strategy and the putting together decks for tournaments, the talk happened on those news groups. So that's where I first got into, I guess, a serious hobby online. And then naturally, I built a website about the card game as my first website as well. And again, this will date us, but GeoCities was that first version of the website. So, very free website builder. But then eventually got a domain name, bought a proper website, and coded HTML myself, bought myself a textbook and teach yourself HTML in 24 hours and coded it up.
I took a course on HTML in college.
It's hard.
Yeah, it was
I wasn't
hard.
a coder, so but I learned enough to do a fairly good 90s level kind of website. And then it turned into a little, not like a full-time business, but certainly a side hustle. So I sold my own cards there. I started buying cards at wholesale and selling them at retail. So I had an e-commerce store, had some advertisers, some sponsors of the site. And then the smartest thing I ever did is I added a forum, figured out how to install some software. And then, these other guys were just coming in there every day and they were trading and talking. And it became kind of like the main trading site for the Australian/New Zealand kind of community of Magic the Gathering players. I made maybe $500 a month during its peak. So it was pretty good while I was in university as a side hustle income.
That's pretty awesome. I always joke around like, man, if I knew when, if I could go back in time with the knowledge that I have now, oh my God.
I would just buy domain names. I would be buying every domain name I could get. That's the first thing I would
there's
do.
so many opportunities back then. It's just, with me, I was just distracted, man. I was distracted because, one, my dad still had his business. So in my head, I was always going to work for him, and it was already a huge company. And then
what was it? What was the business?
It was in oil and construction and steel.
Oh, okay.
Like it's been the family business for like 2 generations. So, but
very offline.
Yeah, very offline. So my mind, I just liked the whole world about being online. I knew it was going to be something, but I never took the time to actually concentrate on it because, again, I talked about this before in here. Like in my head, I was like, something happens, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to work for him and whatever, take over the company or whatever at some point. And that was not the case because that didn't happen. He retired. So But even honestly, even if you want to, it's not something I'm into whatsoever. So I would have said no. Like I was just like, I can't do this. And then, but back then I was just distracted, man. I was distracted with the partying. I was distracted with cars. That was my thing. Cars. I was obsessed with cars and wanted to do my first business was around cars restoration and stuff like that. So I enjoyed that a lot. But, back then I had no idea the potential of
It's
like we do now, I mean, I just didn't see it.
It's funny you mentioned cars because the same time I started my blog, my first one, which is a few years after the story we've been talking about, a friend of mine started a car blog, and he was just like really into cars. He started getting free test drives to review the cars, all the way to the point where he got to drive a Bugatti in Europe on this amazing trip with his buddies. Awesome. And it became a real business. In fact, they got venture capital. They ended up selling 10 years later for $65 million in Australia. So it was like amazing, huge. And that was a great niche,
Yeah, that's so cool, man. No, I love hearing stories like this because it really gives you a different perspective that it all comes down to where you're at mentally. Like you can see it. If you're paying attention, you'll see it. And if you have if you're on top of your game, I should say, if you're on top of your game and your goal is to succeed and do whatever it takes, and that's your sole focus, then every time you see an opportunity, like now it's obvious. Like if I see, like when TikTok came out, I called it right away. I'm like, this is it. Let's go.
What's next? What are you calling right now?
What's next, Christian? Right? But back then I was so distracted by a million other things that it just like literally flew past me. And, people say it's like, oh man, if I would have been back then, I would have started, I could have started Facebook because I knew how to write code and all that. I'm like, that's not how it works. It's like crypto. How many people are going to look back at crypto and I'll be like, I wish I was there, like, how many people passed on Bitcoin? I passed on it in 2010. I didn't start buying it until I think it was like 2016 or something like that.
Still a good time.
Yeah. But because, it's easy to say when you know what's going to happen, but when you're in the middle of it and, you don't have tons of disposable income to throw around, because you got to live real life. Yeah, you can't just go back. It's like, oh yeah, I would have put all my money on Bitcoin. Like, no, I mean, very few people had the balls to do that.
It's such a good point. I remember like a few times I've done interviews now versus say 15 years ago, 10 years ago. I didn't have capital to just throw into things as whether it's a gamble like cryptocurrency or even if it's like starting some kind of software company. I'm not a developer myself too. So if I want to start a SaaS company, I have to hire someone. So yeah, you might have the idea for Facebook, but unless I went the venture capital route to build that, and we know like how many other Facebooks have we never heard about that were started and failed, and there's only one winner in the space right now. It's Facebook. Of course, there's Instagram, and then there's TikTok and Snapchat and so on. But really, unless you have either the skill set yourself to sit there and code it, you're in the right place at the right time. Like, you're in Stanford or something.
Takes luck too. Yeah.
Yeah. Or money, luck. So yeah, it's not a guarantee. I think one of the better examples though is like, oh yeah, if I just bought, I don't know, like all these .com domain names in the 90s, then sure, they appreciated in value. Yes, if you bought Bitcoin and then Ethereum, there was all these opportunities. You could have bought Google and Google floated on the stock market. It's constant. There's always something like that happening.
In my defense, I did tell my dad to buy Google and Yahoo back in the day. He did not listen to me. So I still throw that one around the Thanksgiving dinner. So you did the Magic the Gathering, the website, you were making some money on it. And what was after that? What came after?
Yeah. So I was getting close to like graduating. I think I had about a year to go, and I was still totally following the .com boom, which I think then turned into the .com bust, as we know, like around 2001. But I was still totally interested in tech. And one of the books I read was the story of eBay, the founder, Pierre Omidyar, and sort of that background story. And what I loved about the story was it was a marketplace model. You've got buyers, you've got sellers, and you've got a person or company in the middle that takes a transaction fee to bring people together. What I didn't like about my card game business was these tiny profit margins and tiny audience, kind of niche product that I sold, niche topic. So I was like, I need to get into something where there's a better profit margin. And I was excited about this middleman potential business. I call it like the many to many business model. Same time as that idea came to me, I was studying a few different things, and this is going to sound funny, but Yahoo had a print magazine back then.
They
So
did? I didn't know
they
that.
did, yeah.
Yeah.
It was in Australia. They're called news agencies. I don't know. Here in Canada, we don't have them. It's like where you buy a newspaper from, right? Remember back in the day when you bought magazines and newspapers in the store. So Yahoo had a print one, and I picked up often, just read it, and there was an article in there about this guy who was running a company called I think it was SA Edge, and basically, as you know, to get into university in the States, you often have to write an entrance essay as part of your submission, to go to that university. His company was an editing service for people writing those entry essays, and it was doing amazing. And it was like a .com story, a young kid in his Harvard dorm running a company, doing phone calls. He was taking ad bookings as well as selling his services. So I liked the idea, and I thought I could apply this to Australia a little differently, though. What I noticed in Australia, we had a lot of international students. Their English wasn't great. I was experiencing this doing papers in a group environment in my studies. And, the English wasn't great. If we had to combine four people's writing together, you had to edit so much. So I thought, let's put together essentially an editing company. And obviously, I'm shrinking the story. It started as a language translation service. At one point, it was something else, but eventually became an essay editing company called Better Edit. And I connected contract university professors and PhD grads. They provided an editing service to often international students studying at Australia or Canada or America. And it wasn't writing of papers, it was proofreading and then like a critique of feedback, just helping them to express their ideas better. And it was so niche. I went to university campuses and put up posters. I did a bit of Google optimization, and slowly but surely, in university and then in the years after it as my main business, it grew to like a full-time income. Like during the peak, we'd do about 100 grand a year in revenue.
That's
But the
so
best,
awesome. And I
yeah,
love hearing these stories from from somebody who went through it and actually did stuff with it. Like, I mean, think about it. Like when people say like, everything's saturated, like who like else thinks about this? You know what I'm saying? I mean, now you see it, but back then, it was fairly new, man. And it's like that, this is the kind of thinking, I don't want to really say critical thinking, but this is the kind of, mindset that you have to have, especially when you're talking, crypto's big now, obviously, but it's nothing yet. Trust me when I tell you that. Like,
mhm,
and you got to think about people, most people, 99% of people, I would say 95% of people, what they see is crypto because of the currency.
mhm,
But if you start thinking of the blockchain and what can be
mhm.
done with the blockchain, that's when some amazing ideas, can come out of, right?
Yeah, I'm
And it's
loving the
like,
DeFi space right now. Just
yeah,
looking
it's
at the
crazy.
projects. Yeah.
Yeah. So you came up, you called the block that changed your life, which I love. So, okay. So what happened? What happened? Did you keep growing it? What happened? How much did it grow?
So yeah, it was a lifestyle business, I guess the best way to put it. It was completely digital, so I was able to travel with it. That was my ultimate goal, I guess. When I was in 18, 19, I wanted an income stream that I could travel with around the world that didn't have an alarm clock. And it took a while. Like I had to build a team. I had to hire someone to manage email for that company, which kind of connects to my story today.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, here we
Yeah,
go.
that was
So
day one, like when I first experienced it, and it's a long time ago. But that broke me free from running it, because that person who I trained to do my email, they were doing customer service and they connected my contract editors with my clients. So I wasn't in the inbox processing email all day long, which was a big job for that company. And I found myself with a lot of spare time once I completely delegated that company to the email manager. And it wasn't like I was rich, but I had enough to pay for rent and food. So that's when I started exploring other things. And it was, again, just timing. This is like 2004. And this buddy of mine says, "Hey, have you heard of blogs? They're great for getting search traffic from Google. Maybe you should make one for your editing company." I didn't know what a blog was. Bearing in mind, no social media. This was the first piece of social media
yeah,
technology ever invented. This idea of writing a blog and then having someone leave a comment and interacting with you. So I went and found some blogs. I looked at them. I go, "This looks like a website. I don't understand the difference." Ended up installing some software to run a blog on my editing company. I tried to write about editing and proofreading to attract like my target customer. but I really hated writing about like how to get good grades in essays and stuff like that. It
I
was
don't
really,
blame you.
yeah,
Yeah.
dry and boring. I lasted about 3 months, and then I said, you know what? I now know what a blog is. It's kind of like a journal. People can leave comments, and I know why it's good for search engines, because Google is just eating them up. They're really optimized for search, and it's natural for one blogger to link to another, just to share each other's ideas when they write posts. At least it was back then. It's not so much nowadays. But
Yeah.
so I decided to start what was then called Entrepreneur's Journey. The domain name is terrible, entrepreneurs-journey.com. You can tell I was not seeing that as a business. It was meant to be this kind of hobby where I'd play around with the blog. And I told stories. I basically wrote these articles explaining how I built this card game business, how I was growing and built this editing business. And an audience started to show up and follow it as, you know, one of the very early entrepreneurial blogs at the time. And I didn't intend for this to happen, but I didn't call myself this at the time, but I became like a micro influencer in the entrepreneurial blogging space. To this day, I still have people come up to me and say, hey, I read your blog or listened to your podcast back then. I started a podcast at the same time. And, you know, that's kind of what was my gateway
That
to
long?
getting,
That's when you
yeah.
started it? Wow.
05 was my first podcast episode as well. So it's a long time ago.
Oof, man, that is so awesome. That is so cool.
I actually called it audio blogging. That's how long ago it was.
But that's cool. I mean, that you had the vision, man, from the get-go. And see, that's what happens when you get in and have a little bit of success. That's when you go deep. And it's pretty much the same type of journey that I had in terms of like going deep. I call it going deep because what happened with me was I was in brick and mortar with the restoration business I just told you about. And I made some bad decisions again, because I was having too much of a good time. And, you know, the economy crashed. That was 2009. So I was like, you know what? Shutting it down. I mean, I had people that owed me money all over the place, and I knew I was never going to see those checks. So I was like, I'm done. I'm taking some time off, figure out what I want to do. And then at the same time, you know, my best friends, their careers are taking off. And when I was you know, I'm a very competitive person, and I was the one they looked up to. And all of a sudden I'm just like on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when the whole thing, it's like, I got to get this. I got to go online. I have to figure, because I need the thing that I always tell people is like, I always had it in my head. The only thing that was in my head is like, I need to start a website. I need to do something online. I know I can make money online. I just have to figure it out, because I'm a computer guy. So I was a kid, you know, I build my own computers and all that. So
did you feel like you were late to the game starting around
I
2010?
still feel like I'm late to the game, even though that I know I'm not, but it feels that way because again, now that I have the knowledge that I've gained in the past, you know, what has it been, a decade now and a little bit over? It's, you know, what I've learned in the past decade is I call it times 5 than going to college and getting a doctorate. I mean,
Sure.
The amount of books and money that I put, my own money that I put into it, and successes and failures, and just going super deep. I mean, you can't replace that education with anything else. So it's a matter of like, whatever comes our way, I can take advantage of one way and another if I really want to. So that right there is priceless. But back then, I felt like I was super late, you know? So, you know, I took some time off, and I've told the story here before. I actually got a job with a company helping them with the marketing here in South Florida, and they screwed me over because I just got tired of doing nothing, and I wasn't just going to start a business just to start a business. I was just burning through cash, and living in Fort Lauderdale is not cheap downtown. You know, it's like, and a person like me who likes to go out all the time, yeah, you got to pay for that. So I was like, I'll do something for now. And it just so happened that I started working with this company, and they own 2 websites. And that's how I got my little again, luck, you know, it just so happened that they specialize only on online, and I got a job with them with marketing and sales. And that's when I got a little taste of like, oh, so this is how this works. And then they screwed me over, and that was like the fire that I needed inside of me too. I was like, you know what? Now I know, like, boom. And I just went head in first. And then again, comes back to luck. I would have never, I mean, maybe I would have learned Facebook ads at some point, but after that happened, I think it was like not even a week or 2 after it happened, I came across a post from one of my friends who did their first Facebook ads course. And I was like, I like Facebook. I'm on Facebook all the time. Like, if I can make money with Facebook, sign me up.
Mm-hmm.
And I found the person who created the course, which is his name is Don Wilson. We're friends now, and I paid $300 for it, and the rest is history, man. I went deep from that. I went into learning marketing from obviously Russell Brunson, Dan Kennedy, arguably all the big copywriting guys, and I just kept learning. It went perfect with sales because I was always good at sales. And once I put two and two together, and then me knowing how to develop brands and all that, I was like, all right, I need to start. I want to have my own fashion line at one point. I started, that's when I launched my first Shopify store. And then that's when I learned not to detach emotionally from everything. And that's when it really started clicking that listen, you don't have to be passionate about it. You just got to love what you do. And then it didn't take me long to figure out that I loved building it, the brands, and building the whole business around it and running it and making it successful and, helping others while I was on that track. And it wasn't so much about the product. The only thing I care about is like quality products. I didn't care if it was, a pair of leggings or I don't know, something for your car. You know what I mean? It was just like, as long as the product was quality, and I will get those emails and those reviews about how much people love them, that just made my day. That made my whole day worth it. And it just kept going from there. And it's, build multiple brands, and it's fun, man. It's really cool. But it's a mixture of like going deep, like focusing and keeping that fire alive, that burning inside of you alive. Because what happens is, and I noticed this with a lot of my, not so much my friends, but I want to say like people that I know that, they go to school, they graduate, and they become, I don't know, financial advisor. I'm just throwing something out there because my best friend's one. So that's the first one that came to my head. Or a doctor, well, doctors are always learning, but you know what I'm saying? Like they stop learning new things. It's like, okay, I have my career. I'm the VP of, I don't know, sales or whatever. And it's like, unless they're forced to do some training from the corporation in-house, they never pick up a book again on sales. You know what I mean? Like most people just drop it. And it's like, if there's one thing I'm going to teach my kids from day one, and I already have like the library, that I accumulated from all the books that have changed my life. It's like, here's the basics. Here's this, here's that. I just want you to read them. What you do with the knowledge is up to you, but I want you to have the foundation that you will never have to rely on anyone to make a penny. Because if you read these books, they're going to help you for the rest of your life. That's the way I look at it. So it's like you kept learning, you kept evolving with your businesses, and then one idea led to another. For all I know, I don't know what could happen with me, 15 years from now. Who knows, man? Technology moves so quickly. Like we don't know what's going to happen with you.
Yeah. I'm interested in crypto like you. I not having the development skill is always a challenge. Like
sure.
The beauty of the early days that we were talking about before, it's like, I want to build a website. I could buy a book, Teach Yourself HTML. And that was probably the extent of my programming skill set. I tried to learn JavaScript, and
but think about it this way. You know what I admire? That you completely went out of your way to make it happen because it wasn't as accessible as it is nowadays.
No, it was definitely harder.
For me, to learn this world, it was just a coincidence and luck that I just happened to work with that company. I left them, and I saw the post. Like, I think it was the same week. It just happened to cross my newsfeed from a friend that's in the other side of the country. I mean, it's just some things are just meant to happen. You know what I mean? It's just like, who knows? Maybe if I was doing something else that day, if I was at the beach, I would have missed the post, because
yeah, totally.
At that time, there was no Facebook on my phone. It was on my desktop.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's true. So there's definitely a lot of luck in all of this. That's for sure.
Yeah. So, all right. So I know we got sidetracked there. So inboxdone.com. How did you just said that you had the assistant running all your emails and all that stuff. So the light bulb went off at some point, I'm assuming. How did that go?
Yeah. I mean, the sort of connect the dots of the story, that blog I started became an education business that I probably ran full time, like going deep, like you said, for a good decade, 10 years. And that's also when I studied some of the stuff you're talking about. Like I started studying Jay Abraham and Rich Schefren and Eben Pagan and Jeff Walker. Russell Brunson probably had a book in there somewhere too.
Yeah.
And I was just learning direct response marketing and copywriting and funnel building and all that. And I wanted to take that into my information marketing business. So selling courses and then a membership site, ebooks, that sort of thing. And yeah, did like $2 million in sales over a decade, all my own content, all my own courses and things like that. So it was just a really fun business to run, completely digital. I sat in cafes and wrote most of the time. That was like my day job. So I loved it. Had a small team. At one point, I had 3 people on my email and customer service. So there was always that connection to this idea that you shouldn't be the one doing your email. But it didn't turn into a business. Like, and I had to really, fully complete this coaching business and feel like I taught everything I wanted to teach and create everything I wanted to create. Really realize, like, you probably do this too. You learn a new idea, like, oh, I've never tested that upsell before, or that upsell downsell combination, or this sense of urgency, or I've never done a product launch with affiliates. So I was like, I want to do all these things and see how it all
That's
goes.
how I am. I literally have a whiteboard where, like, either a new idea or new thought or whatever just goes on that whiteboard, and it stays there forever until I get around it and actually do it. Yeah.
I've done the same thing. So I haven't done everything that's on that whiteboard,
Oh,
so
me
to
neither.
speak, but
Absolutely
I
not. No,
yeah, I
there's
did a lot
tons
of
in
things.
there.
So
Yeah.
a lot were tested.
Now,
some worked. Sorry.
do you do the thing like I know I do this thing where, like, some of them will hit me and I'll write it on the board, and then, like, I don't know, 3 days later, 4 days later, I walk by and I'm like, that is stupid. I just erase it. Like, you think it's the greatest idea ever, and then, like, 4 days later, I'm like, no, that's dumb, and then I just delete it right away.
I think the more common thing I would do is I'd go and buy a domain name for an idea. Sometimes it was
God,
just
you're like
like
my
for a
friend
new
Eric.
product. Yeah. So I've definitely gone through a number of domain names, and then a year later, I'm like, why am I, not renewing? But I did feel like and I still have that coaching business, but it's not really my main project. So
Sure.
about 5 years ago or so, I'm kind of winding down coaching. I'd moved to Canada. I traveled through San Francisco and Asia, left Australia, and really said, I'm leaving Australia now. I'm moving away. And I didn't necessarily know what I was going to do next, but I always had that idea in the back of my head that people spend too much time in email. I haven't had this problem for so long. For some reason, it's not something that people decide to outsource. They kind of need to be told that it's available. More advanced marketers, bigger companies, they have executive assistants, they have customer support teams, but it's so uncommon for a founder, CEO, C-suite manager type person, or like, someone running an accountancy practice or a dentistry. They still have email and they still spend a lot of time in there. So I wanted to test the idea properly, and I had this opportunity to start a new business. That combined with one other key thing, one of my email assistants, her name was Claire, she was showing a lot of signs of leadership. And I was like, this person is hungry for more, and she's good at this job. So this is the perfect co-founder because she can deliver the service. I have the audience to find the first customer. Approached her. She said, yes, I'm totally up for a test. I know it's just a test. Let's see if we can get 1 or 2 customers, which we did. So we ended up promoting to my own audience, basically simple message, wrote an email saying, hey, would you like the people who manage Yaro's email to manage yours? About 5 people showed interest. 2 of them ended up being a good fit. We signed them on. And then we learned, like, can we charge money for this at a profitable rate? Can the system that works for my email be applied to different business emails and different people? Is it scalable? Can we hire more people, run an agency sort of model around that? And the short answer is yes. So, it worked for the 2 test people. And then we started hiring more assistants, ramping up our marketing. And then it's been actually very surprising because I thought we'd end up getting a lot of like online coach, information marketer type people. And we did initially because that was my audience. But then once we kind of exhausted that audience and we started sort of reaching out and getting some word of mouth, we had like accountants sign up, and then angel investment, venture capitalists, real estate agents, owner of restaurants, owner of a car sales lot, not any consistent industry, but all the same type of person, super busy, wants to get their time back, spends the morning all day at work and then at night in the inbox using it as a to-do list. They need an executive assistant as well for calendar management, admin tasks, invoicing, data entry, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, we just started rolling it out, and a lot of the growth has come from word of mouth. And thankfully, once you've broken free from email, it's like flying first class. You never want to go back. So a lot of our clients are very long-term with us.
Yeah, like a lot of my stuff is automated, and I have people who manage a lot of stuff like systems and processes in place and all that stuff. But I'm still I'm the one who handles my email. But to be honest with you, my email, I guess it's because we use Slack a lot too, and then other tools. But believe it or not, my personal email is mostly like stuff that I want to read. Like newsletters that I subscribe to and stuff like that. And of course, the usual stuff that you got to take care of. So let me ask you something. Like for somebody like me, it'll be really hard to let go of my email. So what is that? How do you guys make that transition easy for somebody to let it go? Like, is it hard? Is it a hard transition? Like, what's the process behind that? I mean, if you can
Yeah.
talk about it, I mean,
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the personality. Like some people just can't deal with the idea of not seeing their email. They'll never let go. They'll have to be that person.
yeah,
We have one of our earliest clients. You might know him, Justin Brook.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
big in the yeah
Yeah, just yeah, I
manage
know
email.
Justin. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and he came to us and he said, "I never want to go into my inbox again, but I do
Oh,
want to
this is when
know."
he wanted to disconnect, when he went to his disconnect phase, where I was like, I'm gonna disconnect from
Maybe,
everything.
yeah. I didn't know I know he was doing the RV life, like that was the early start of that, where he was traveling around with the
Yeah,
RV.
yeah. That's
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's what I know exactly what we're talking about. Yeah, so that's funny that he came to you to so how
Well,
did
he
that
was he
go?
was fun because he was totally ready to let go. He was like you though. He said, "I gotta still see my newsletter
Right.
content. There's certain people I follow I want to read, but I don't have to read it in my email. If someone could just collect it, drop a document into Slack once a week, and I can just batch process that content, that'll make it even. Just I'll save 10 minutes just going from one email to the next." Plus all the other stuff, we started doing anything and everything that was going through his inbox because he said never want to go into the inbox again. So that meant we had to build a system for, replying to every email that he doesn't need to reply to, getting the information that he needs to get, and still getting some replies from him because there still would be a need to get him to answer a question. So, he might write a quick Slack message with an answer, and then his assistant will take that and write it an email and customize it and send it. But what we always do for all clients, like we did for Justin, is we build a system, like a knowledge base around it. So the idea is we step in and we try and learn as much as we can about you, and we try and clone you. So if this was like for you, Christian, we'd assign you 2 assistants. So we always assign 2 for every client because we want to offer redundancy. It's horrible if someone gets sick or someone quits and you have to go retrain them. You have to take over doing all that work again while they're learning. So we always provide 2 so we can have that backup. And what they would do together is duplicate you, clone you. So learn everything they can about you, learn your communication style, understand your business, all the roles you perform, all the key players that you connect with, other team members, partners, affiliates, whatever it is, and just understand the whole ecosystem of what it is to be you. Plus, of course, they'll just study your inbox and your sent folder for what you're dealing with on a daily basis, how you reply. They'll build templates, they'll build folders, they'll build rules, they'll build reminders. And then the fun starts. They'll actually start replying to your emails for you, but they'll write drafts first so you can take a look because
Yeah.
it's uncomfortable to have someone write emails for you if you've never done it before. It's something you got to get used to. So you go through that experience, but usually it takes about a week, and then you get comfortable with them writing drafts, and then they can start sending them without you being involved. And then that's pretty much it. But from that point forward, you might speak to them once a day or once a week on Slack or a phone call, but they're in there every day being your frontline defense. So, you don't have to have that mental stress about, am I missing something in the inbox? Am I not replying fast enough? All that.
I'm just like, I'm smiling here because I'm just trying to think of somebody going through my sent folder of like my favorites. Like people freak out because my emails are literally straight to the point, 1 line or 2 lines. Like I don't do the whole like, hey, so I hope you're having a fantastic day. As per our last email, that corporate speak.
Mhm.
The way I write emails, it's like literally like, hey, what do we do here? Do this. That's it. And then if you know me, you know my personality, like I mean that with a smile and I'm in a good mood. It's not that I don't want to be, it's just funny. I feel like people sometimes like when they don't know me, they're like, is everything okay? I'm like, yeah, dude, everything's cool. Like that's just me, just 1 line. That's it. That's how I talk. You know what I mean? There's
Yep.
no need to
I've
drag
had the
it out
same
for
problem.
3 paragraphs, and you don't need to do the same for me
Yeah.
either. But I'm very disciplined though when it comes to my email too. Like I learned from one of my mentors a long time ago to not be glued to my inbox all day long. So I'll check it, twice a day, maybe 3 if it's like a crazy day, but it's just like everything's in folders and it's like, here's the important people. It's all, at least I think it's for efficiency for me. So I go in there and boom, 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 boom. But, a lot of the stuff that we do, if anything, I can tell you right now that one, that's the killer. It's Slack. Slack can get out of control with like multiple partnerships and all that stuff. It can be really time consuming. So maybe you should extend your services to that too.
Well, it sounds like you've just taken what used to happen in email and you've moved it into Slack.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, but that's really cool, man. That's really cool. Listen, we're out of time already. I joke around like I love podcasts like this because they fly by. So, obviously the service is there. So if you're one of those people that are super busy and you want to take control, because it literally, like, you don't know how much time you're spending in your email until you actually start tracking it, and then add the phone time on it too, because people forget that they check it on their phone too.
Oh yeah.
So I'm sure you've done studies on that. But for those of you guys that are interested in this, go to inboxdone.com. Yaro, what else, man? Where can people find you?
The blog's the best place. So yaro.blog, and all my content's there around my coaching business. My angel investments are listed there. Inbox Done is listed there. All the stories are there. My newsletter is there as well. And of course, it links to all the social and so on.
Yeah, and I will have all the links in the description as well. But remember, go to inboxdone.com. And if you want a team behind you to take care of all your email and all that stuff, so you can concentrate on the things that matter, go for it, man. Yaro's an amazing guy, as you guys can tell from this episode. And I hope to have you again, man. Until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.